So we're live once again. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer. I guess you know that. You're on my channel right now. And if this is your first time here, welcome. We do this every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time from the U.S. But we've got people from all over. We've got normal regular viewers in the U.S. from New York, from California. Sometimes Ted joins us from Texas, which he has, I think, the last two broadcasts. Once in a while, Will and Mike, who were the original two guys that I started Friday Night Tech Talk with 4.5, 5 years ago now, a while ago now. Occasionally, they'll join in. Thinking next month, Mike might start joining in a little bit more. But we do this every Friday night. We talk about some tech stories from last week. So for the last week, from last Friday to this Friday, and what might have come up. And I throw in some stories that I think you might find interesting. Certainly I do. But I try to give you some stories that you're not going to see everywhere. So this is every Friday night. And you can see Super Chat is pretty much always wide open if you want to donate something to this show. And it all goes to getting more tech, that's for sure. And I put out 2 or 3 videos during the week, pretty much every week. Sometimes camera comparisons between phones and a few other things, some smart watch stuff, occasionally some earbud things. So if you're new, glad you're here. And regulars, who is here? Regulars. Brian was the first one here. So welcome, Brian, as always. And here's Eleanor. She just came in, and she's off for the weekend. Well, that's good. She said, good evening, everybody, and wishing you all a very happy Resurrection Sunday, as do I. Happy Easter to all. Hope you guys all have a great weekend. Okay, here's the Mullen. Glad to have you here, brother. Thanks for dropping in. And just said happy Resurrection Sunday or happy Easter to those who celebrate it. And what did I say? I said we have people from California. We have people from Texas. Normally, we have friends from the Philippines. And we have, I think, the Mullen and a couple of others sometimes drop in from Great Britain. So glad to have all of you here. Don't know if Ted's going to drop in again, but you're very welcome, sir. So when I'm by myself, of course, the show is much quicker. But if you want to follow, the Mullen says, I'm here to make trouble. And you're welcome to, as long as you don't overdo it. And the show notes are on my webpage every week. So let me go show you that. I'm going to share screen here. Okay, so here's where the show notes are. Oh, let me get rid of my branding that may be in the way. Let's see. Okay. So if you go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com and you'll see Friday Night Tech Talk show notes, you click on today's date and you'll get just the stories for tonight's show. So while we're here, I'll give you a little preview. So we're going to just talk a little bit about eSIM. I said eSIM on Pixel phones may soon be transferable. I don't think we've talked about this, even though this is an older post. I believe it's from January, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it. And yes, I didn't. I said may soon. I meant to say B, not BVE, transferable. Anyway, I got that from an article on XDA, so we'll be going over that first. And then we'll be talking about the Restrict Act, which is in Congress, hasn't passed yet, but, everybody's talking about killing TikTok and blah, blah, blah. But what I said is the Restrict Act about TikTok or using fear to give politicians more power again, because this is what they did back in 9/11. So we're just going to talk about that, and we'll see what they're really trying to do. And it may not be a good thing for us. Politicians are always going to do what's good for them. They're rarely going to do what's good for us. I don't care which side they're on. So, and then a couple of days ago, I gather either 2 days ago, I hope we'll see the date in the story, but there was a break-in in an Apple store in Washington State, and it's kind of a movie. They got $500,000 worth of stolen items. So I said 500,000 worth of stolen items taken in Washington Apple Store break-in. So I pulled that from Fox News because they had the pictures that would still show up when I switched it to Reader View. That's why I used Fox News. A lot of people had this story. And then, of course, every week, but heck, I have to have some kind of chat GPT, some AI story. So this week, I found a story which I thought was pretty interesting. It's a short little story. I said, what happens if you make AI the CEO of the company? And that is serious. Find out here. And that's on GuGadget or GAgadget.com. But the guy actually made the AI the CEO and made himself the assistant, and seems to be doing okay. So we'll take a look at that. And then last week we talked about Apple's mixed reality headset being announced at WWDC. Well, I said, as stated in last week's show, Apple's mixed reality headset may or may not come in June. We have 2 different opinions from 2 very reliable leakers. So we're going to take a look at that. And then I got the latest Mac OS and iPad OS updates last week. And this story says the latest Mac OS and iPad OS updates are causing problems with Apple devices. That's the story I found on Tom's Guide. Hasn't caused me problems yet, but it's kind of specific. You'll see what it is. In the last story, I found a story that somebody had picked the iPhone 14 Pro as the best phone of the year, and now they've replaced it with the S23. And since that's exactly how I feel, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max was my phone of the year, I said, let's go over this story. So that's on Tech Radar. So those are the stories we'll go over tonight. Nobody else has come in yet. Let's go back to the comments. Stop screen for a minute. Okay. Yeah, Damone says the U.S. is the worst for spying. From what I've learned the last couple of years, I think that's probably true. Brian says eSIM sucks, but it's good to have a choice. Apple looking at you. Yes, and I know a lot of you and most of you probably don't like eSIM, but if Google makes it so that we can actually move the eSIM to different phones, or at least to different Pixel phones, that would be a good thing. So I thought you guys would want to know about that, even though the story's a little bit old. So back to sharing screen. Let me get these stories going. Okay. Change this to that. Okay. So eSIM on Pixel phones may soon be transferable. So click on XDA developers. And this was from January 10th, but I don't think I'd presented it before, so I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. Android could soon make it easier to transfer eSIM profiles to a new phone, which is great, I think. The process may not require carrier intervention, which I didn't have to do when I got my iPhone 14 Pro Max. I didn't have to contact my carrier at all. So let's go to Review, get rid of some of these ads. Okay. So there's the download your SIM. Google just rolled out this. Now, keep in mind, this was January. Just rolled out the second Android 13 QPR2 beta update to support supported Pixel devices. Although its changelog only lists a couple of bug fixes, the release includes a couple of underlying changes. For instance, Android 13 QPR2 Beta 2 brings support for Unicode 15 emoji. So we should all have this already, I believe, since it was on beta in January. In addition, we should have gotten all this with the March update at the latest, I think. In addition, it includes some code changes suggesting that Google could enable automatically themed icons in the Pixel Launcher in a future release, which I guess would probably have that. But that's not all. The update also introduces a new system property suggesting that Android could gain support for seamless, and that's the keyword, eSIM transfers soon. Now, nobody has said anything about this since then, so I don't know if they have allowed us to do it yet. I guess not, but the fact that it's in the code is great. So, and Brian, I see your comment. As soon as I get past the story, I'll get to your comment. And I see Michael Pepper's in here. Glad to have you here, brother. Let's see. What am I doing? Trying to get to my, okay, there we go. All right, back to the story. Currently, Android doesn't let you transfer your eSIM profile from one phone to another. You have to deactivate the eSIM profile on your old phone, and activate it on your new phone. The process isn't seamless, and you might even have to contact your carrier to activate the eSIM on your new phone. And I remember when most of us got the iPhone 14, a lot of people had to contact their carrier. I did not. It took me 5 minutes. I was done. iOS, on the other hand, offers a built-in quick transfer feature that lets you transfer physical or eSIMs from your old phone to a new model without requiring you to contact your carrier. Taking inspiration from this iOS feature, Google is now reportedly working on, and that's key too, bringing similar functionality to Android. So don't know if it's done yet. According to Michelle Raymond, Android 13 QPR2 Beta 2 includes a new system property called EUICC Seamless Transfer enabled in non-QS. Say that 5 times fast, which hints at the upcoming feature. The feature will likely allow users to seamlessly transfer an eSIM profile from an old Android phone to a new phone. It might also let users convert physical SIM card on an old phone into an eSIM profile on a new phone. So that really would be seamless. Raman further reveals that Google is implementing the feature in the SIM Manager app on its Pixel phones and several other phones that ship with Google mobile service. So they haven't even told us what the other phones might be. However, we don't have complete compatibility details at the moment. Google's Pixel lineup will likely support both eSIM profile transfers and converting a physical SIM to an eSIM profile. Devices from other OEMs will also get support for eSIM profile transfers, but the ability to convert a physical SIM to an eSIM profile might be limited to a few models. And like I say, I just ran across this story, even though it's from January. So I guess I'm going to have to keep an eye out for what Google is saying they've actually done, allow us to do with the eSIM. At the moment, it's not clear whether Google plans to release the feature, and that's key. If it could arrive with a March 2023 Pixel feature drop or later, so I don't know if it did, with Android 14. We all have that Pixel feature drop from March. We've reached out to the company for comment, and we'll update this post as soon as we have more. So I guess they never answered them. So just want you guys to be aware that maybe we can transfer our eSIMs, at least on Pixel phones and maybe a few others, hopefully soon. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. So let me stop screen, back to the comments. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Brian said, Eleanor, have a great weekend. Oh, yeah, I already showed that comment from Brian. Annette, glad you're here. Thanks for joining in as usual. Get some highs. Brian says, my S21 FE doesn't have eSIM support. Yeah, I guess the S22s were the first ones that did. I didn't have the I had the S22 Plus, but I didn't use an eSIM until I got my iPhone 14 Pro Max. Oh, forgot to tell you guys. I usually like to tell you what phones I have with me. So I have my iPhone 14 Pro Max. I have my Pixel 6 Pro, which is what I'm watching my comments on live because there's a little delay. And I didn't have my S23 Ultra last week. I do have it this week. And I also have my Z Flip 4. So I love that dbrand skin. I think it's so cool. So just wanted to let you guys know what phones I have. Now, back to the comments. Mullen says it's just another point of failure on the phone. So I guess that's the eSIM. Brian said, did anyone see the Twitter API changes? The only thing I heard was that Elon had made NPR government-sponsored reporting, and they didn't like it one bit. I tend to agree with him about that. And of course, we all pay for NPR, so I don't see how they're not. But anyway, that was the only thing I saw about Twitter. And I just heard that in passing on the show yesterday, I think it was. Michael, once Android OEMs add support for dual active eSIMs, then that's probably true. They probably will do that sooner than later, I would think. It will make it much better as well. Love that I can have my T-Mobile number for calls and text, but set visible for data, and both are eSIM. That's a good point. Very good point, Michael. Very good. Let's see, the Mullen. Yeah, I see that, and I've seen people crying to Elon about it. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people crying to Elon about it. I agree with Elon on that one, but I'm not a big NPR fan, never have been, so that's just me. Hi to Michael. Michael says, on my S23 Plus, I would have to restart to switch data between carriers. Same for Pixel and OnePlus. But as long as you don't have to contact the carrier, I'm thinking that's the best part. That's what I think. Because like I said, when I got my iPhone 14 Pro Max, it only took me 5 minutes to set it up. Let's see, Brian. What phone currently has dual SIM, dual active? Let's see if Michael answered that. Okay, Michael. Brian, finally feeling better. Had COVID since last Tuesday, and I'm glad you're feeling better, Michael. But I'm negative now, and breathing is slowly clearing. Yeah, the breathing part usually takes time. Elna had COVID twice, and the breathing part took a while with her both times, more so the second time. Let's see, DeMolin, you can't do that with T-Mobile. They want to charge you to ring up and change your phone. And I guess it depends where you are. You know, I would think in Britain, maybe it's different than America. I'm not sure, though. Let's see, what else? Oh, Brian, thank you so much. As always, you're so very faithful, and I appreciate it. Michael, Brian, iPhone is only one to have dual active eSIM. That's right. I forgot they had that. Some Android phones let you do one physical and one eSIM or dual physical, but not the same way the iPhone does it. Okay, very good. I had totally forgotten about that. Glad you're feeling better. Brian, wonder how much the battery will be hit by dual active eSIM. Yeah, I never thought of that. Michael, Visible's method for moving over eSIM is really easy. Install app, put in IMEI, get 2FA pin sent to old phone, put pin in new phone, and wait a few minutes and it switch. That's pretty easy. Kind of like that. And here's Ted. Ted, if you can come in if you want. And Ted says that's a relief. Good to know. Yep. Ted, howdy, folk. Won't be able to jump in tonight, but we can still have fun. Okay, glad you're here, Ted. Let's see. Brian, it doesn't seem to affect. Okay, Brian was asking about the battery with the dual eSIM. Doesn't seem to affect a battery at all on my iPhone because it is still only really sending and receiving data from one at a time. Absolutely. And just allows you to switch between without restart. And Damone says, hi, Ted, nice to see you. And Ted says, NPR gets like 5% of government funding. BBC gets more government funding, but they don't get the state-sponsored media badge. Yeah, we may disagree on this, Ted. I agree with Elon on this one, just how I feel. Let's see. The Mullen Visible is owned by Verizon, so it's going to be the same. Okay, good point. That's right, I forgot about that. Okay, so got some good comments out of that, and thanks to Michael's knowledge, we all learned some things here too, which is very good. Thank you, Michael. So, going to go on to the next story. So back to sharing screen. Okay. And again, this one is about a week old, I think. The Restrict Act. And I think this is typical politicians. About TikTok or using fear to give politicians more power again. And this was on a site called Reason.com. So let's go over there. And this was from, March 31st. So it's a week old. The Restrict Act would restrict a lot more than TikTok. And they make some good points here. Once again, politicians use popular fears to push for open-ended power. Yes, they did that after 9/11, that's for sure. So let's go to read a view. And it's by J.D. Tuckle? Not sure. I guess that's an Italian last name. Sorry I butchered the name so bad. Okay. Even if you believe that governments should be in the business of banning things such as popular communication tools, the details of the effort to eject TikTok from the United States should give you pause. Predictably, politicians are using fears that the popular social media service is spying on behalf of the Chinese government to propose broad legislation that threatens to affect much more than one app. Yeah, and I was listening to Android Central today, and they were all agreeing that, okay, if they're going after TikTok for the Chinese government, why aren't they going after the other Chinese-owned companies? And they've got a point, or apps, and they've got a point. The Rattler is a weekly newsletter from J.D. Tuckle. Sorry about you butchering your name. If you care about government overreach and tangible threats to everyday liberty, this is for you. So I guess you guys can look up the Rattler if you want. Wait, I thought this was about TikTok. Would the Restrict Act, aka the TikTok ban bill, yeah, that's I guess what they're somewhat calling it, criminalize the use of VPNs? Reasons Elizabeth Noah Brown asked if the potential impact on virtual private networks that shield internet users' identities and locations. And she says the answer in many cases, yes, but wait, there's more. So it's a reach to grab everything, and they always overreach. The Restrict Act proposed by Senator, now get this, Mark Warner, Democrat, and a list of co-sponsors, including Senator John Thune, Republican. So once again, doesn't matter which side you're on. doesn't even mention TikTok or parent company ByteDance or even social media. Instead, it hands a whole lot of power to the government, particularly the Secretary of Commerce, to review and prohibit certain transactions. I love when they say certain transactions, which gives them, an open end between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries. And who defines who's adversaries? Well, that secretary does. Regarding information and communications technology, the bill text states in part, now here's this for lawyer doublespeak, the secretary, in consultation with the relevant executive department and agency heads, and who decides what are the relevant agencies, is authorized and shall take action to identify, deter, disrupt, prevent, prohibit, investigate, or otherwise mitigate. In other words, he can do anything he wants. That's what that sentence says, including by negotiating, entering into, or imposing, again, anything he wants, and enforcing any mitigation measure to address any risk arising from any covered trade. Look at the any, by any person or with respect to any property. This whole thing says we can do anything we want, and it's not a thing you can do about it. That's what we're trying to pass here. It then launches into a list of presumed horribles involving information and communications technology products, critical infrastructure, digital economy, a federal election, or national security. It includes a vague authorization of action to counter coercive or criminal activities. So again, nice wide parameters by a foreign adversary that are designed to undermine democratic processes. I think you're the one who's undermining democratic processes with this law, if it passes, and institutions, or steer policy and regulatory decisions in favor of the strategic objective of a foreign adversary. It's like they're turning it around. They're doing exactly what they're saying they're going to prevent. The Restrict Act has been garnering bipartisan momentum, gee, what a surprise, in the Senate, as well as backing from the Biden administration as a workable solution to address the emergent risk posed by foreign ICT products and services to national security, the National Law Review summarized last week. So, Biden administration, Republicans, Democrats, as long as politicians get more power, that's all they care about. If passed, the Restrict Act would provide the Secretary of Commerce broad authority to take appropriate measure, and who decides what that is, to deal with identified risks and to enforce such measures with hefty civil and criminal penalties, like they could probably throw you in jail for 20 years just because they felt like it. Of course, this being the 21st century, the bill also grants the president new power to take actions regarding undue or acceptable risk, who decides what that is, posed by Information and Communications Technology Act, ICT. That's a huge grant of authority, that's true, to address the supposed peril posed by TikTok. What does it all mean? It means they can do whatever they want. That's what it means. No, it's just not just about TikTok. VPNs would be covered in the restrict. What are they doing with our VPNs? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Led by Senator Mark R. Warner, Democrat Virginia, and John Thune, Republican South Dakota, that would require the Commerce Department to evaluate the national security risks of foreign technology, the Washington Post, Tim Starks writes. Warner says Chinese VPNs were the sort of apps that cry out for systematic review. Yeah, they just want to get rid of them because they don't like that they can't see what we're doing. They're proposing the bill, which would allow the Commerce Department to examine apps on national security grounds. Of course they would. But legislation doesn't stop there. The bill's reference to digital economy also raises eyebrows. Why am I not surprised? Anyway, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but you can see this is just another big power grab by the government. Doesn't matter which side of the aisle they're on, as long as they all get more power, and we're the ones who end up suffering for it. And they can throw us in jail for anything they feel like throwing us in jail for with these broad any this, any that, any that. That's how I feel about it. So I think this is way out of line. And we've gone through this after 9/11. It's just making it bigger and more power for them. That's what it's all about. Okay. Let's not screen. Let's go back to the comments. Damone's in Britain. He's answering the what Ted said about the BBC. BBC don't get government funding. They charge you a license fee. That's right. I forgot about that. They do. Even I've heard that in conversations, listening to British conversations, that everyone in the UK has to pay. Yeah, and in Scotland, I know I had a friend who was always complaining about that, for no commercials. So that's how you get charged in Britain. Michael, the U.S. government is fine as long as it's the U.S. government gathering data or getting data turned over to them. Yeah, it's always about more power for them, not us. If they really want privacy maintained, nobody would be given open access. I agree 100%, Michael. Republicans are looking for open-ended grant overreach with the bill they're proposing and using unfounded fears to establish a basis to propose this. It's the Patriot Act 2.0. I agree, but it's not just the Republicans. It's both sides. Both are equally as bad. Nobody can convince me they're not. Let's see. More, Michael. The irony is that they don't want other countries given access. That's right. But the only way for them to know if you're bypassing this would be to illegally access your devices to see what you're doing. Sure, that's why they want to get into the VPNs. This sounds like quite the First and 14th Amendments violations. Couldn't agree more, Michael. They don't care. They'll find a way to get around that. You know that. Hopefully, I'm hoping this will just not get passed. But since both sides are for it and the president's for it, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out when the checks and balances went out the door. I would say absolutely for sure at 9/11. Probably before that, but absolutely at 9/11. But of course, we found out that everything the Bushes said in 9/11 was a total lie. And now nobody cares that we know about it. The government goes after TikTok. What about Microsoft telemetry? Microsoft is the worst. The government don't say anything about that. Microsoft is spoon-fitting the government information from telemetry. I agree, but I think so is Google. My guess is Apple's probably doing some, but I don't think they're as bad as the others. But it's not just Microsoft, but I do agree with you. Look at what the PC Security Channel uncovered about Microsoft telemetry using Wireshark. Didn't know about that. Michael, what would prevent them from saying, I don't like what Michael Peppertech is posting about informing his views about increasing privacy and security? We're going to ban. Yeah, that's exactly it. With this bill, they could just do that and they'd, be perfectly well within their rights. The moment. I agree, George. Both sides are just as bad. Yeah, you can't convince me otherwise. Politicians are only for politicians. They're never for us at all, in my opinion. Okay. I'm so happy that everybody's taking part in the conversation as much as you are. Thanks, guys. Keep it up. You're making it exciting for me, and we're talking important stuff. So this is good. So let's go on to the next story. I'm glad that anybody who wasn't aware of the Restrict Act and that it's kind of looming in Congress, at least now you're aware of it. So, and if you just go online, type the Restrict Act, the first thing you get is the government number for the Senate. So I'm glad if you weren't aware of it, I'm glad I helped make you aware of it. So on to the next. Let's go down. Yeah, this one I just found out about yesterday, and a heck of a story. $500,000 worth of stolen items taken in Washington State Apple Store break-in. So I pulled this from Fox News. Okay, so it was yesterday. I guess it was yesterday morning that they discovered it. I think it happened probably the night before. And this is just like in the movies. They went next door, cut a hole in the wall, and that's how they got in. Burglars cut hole in wall of coffee store bathroom to break into Apple Store, take $500,000 in items. Police in Washington say that more than 430 iPhones were stolen. So let's go into read a view there. They made a pretty good haul there. It's by Andrew Miller, and it was from yesterday. Police in Washington State say crafty burglars got away with hundreds of thousands of dollars of Apple merchandise at a mall when they cut through the wall of an adjacent store and snuck in. The Linwood Police Department said thieves stole more than 400 items worth about $500,000 total from the Alderwood Mall's Apple Store after they cut a hole through the bathroom wall of the espresso machine store next door, KOMO News reported. And there's a picture of the hole they cut in the bathroom. Pretty smart. Straight out of the movies, this stuff. The incident happened after 7 p.m. Sunday when the mall, it happened Sunday, when the mall was closed. The owner of the espresso machine store said he had not seen anything like it in the 5 years the store has been in business. I bet you haven't. Our front door was locked. They pried open front door. Sounds like they have very lax security on their front of their store. But, of course, I guess they probably didn't expect that kind of break-in. Seattle Coffee Gear Regional Manager Eric Marks told the outlet, adding that the break-in will cost the store around $2,000 in repairs. And there's the picture again. Police in Washington State are looking for suspects, so they haven't caught them yet, who cut through a wall to rob an Apple store. It was a 24 by 18 hole cut into the wall in what appears to be the back room of the Apple store. So they obviously knew where they were, everything about the layout of the store. I'm surprised we were the conduit for them to get to the Apple store. I had no clue we were so close or adjacent to them. Well, obviously they did. The Apple Store's employees had no idea that merchandise had been stolen until they arrived for work the next day. So, yeah, they did it on Sunday. So they had 24 hours to get away, that's for sure. Police say $500,000 worth of merchandise was stolen. Approximately 436 iPhones in total were taken out of the back. Linwood Police Department Communications Manager Marion McKay told Fox News Digital in a statement. In total, about $500,000 worth of merchandise was stolen, and that's iPhones, iPads, Apple Watches. McKay suggested the crime to be an organized and sophisticated operation. Yeah, I hope you catch him, but I don't have a lot of hope. Pretty smart. Anyway, very interesting story. And they're going to make a lot of money from this stuff unless they get caught. So let's get a review. Get rid of that. Stop screen. Okay. That video that Demolin was saying about, saying he did a video on Microsoft and Wireshark. I never heard of Wireshark. Michael, I used to be more Democratic left-leaning, but now I've shifted to the middle. Yeah, you know why I'm in the middle, Michael? Because they're both so slimy. And, all right, don't get me started. Okay, Michael. They stole iPhones, which will all be tracked and locked immediately. Yeah, that makes sense. They better have acted to disassemble and disconnect battery right away. Well, it sounds to me like they're probably smart enough to know to do that. And if not, wouldn't the cops have them by now? I would think. iPhones can be tracked even when they're off. I think any phone can be. Here's Pat. Pat, glad you're here, brother. They left the toilet sat up. Yes, they did. Okay. Michael, I suspect they will be sold to people who don't know they are receiving stolen goods. It will be too late to track the thieves. I suspect they'll be sold to people overseas and probably will be difficult or impossible to track them down. That's my guess. Yeah, Pat, we live close. Oh, you live close to that Apple store. Okay. So cool. Okay. Yeah, the toilet seat thing. I didn't even think about that, but that's true. All right. So at least I'm giving you guys some good information. I guess some of you that didn't know about that one, but they got a nice haul there. They sound like pretty smart thieves. And one thing I really don't like is smart thieves. Let me get a quick drink here. Okay. Back to our stories. Share screen. And our next story. What happens if you make the AI the CEO of the company? Find out here. And this is gagadget.com, or I guess gagadget.com. So this was interesting. It's a short story, but it was kind of interesting. ChatGPT became CEO of the company, recouped its investment in a week, and could make a profit of 400,000 euros by the end of the year. And this is by Maxim Panasovsky. And this was from, okay, so it's from January 4th, but we're just hearing about it, I guess. Or at least I just found it. But this guy was pretty smart in setting up this company this way. Now, I told you last week how Italy has restricted ChatGPT. Well, this guy, in Portugal, this guy's going the other way. So let's go to read review. While Italy has temporarily restricted the use of ChatGPT, in Portugal, a chatbot has become the CEO of the company. The artificial intelligence was able to effectively manage the startup and made it profitable in a week. Portuguese João F. Santos created the startup and appointed ChatGPT as its CEO, while he himself became an assistant to the artificial intelligence. And the only reason I knew how to pronounce João was there was a big jazz musician here back in the 60s and 70s from Brazil, and his first name was João. So anybody who was a jazz fan knew that name. He used to work with Herb Alpert in the Tijuana Brass. The engineer ran all of the neural networks tasks, devoting only 1 hour a day to the company. So the ChatGPT was making all the decisions and doing most of the work, I gather. Moreover, he did everything ChatGPT said, even if those actions could harm the startup. So guy was pretty smart. The neural network offered 3 lines of action. João F. Santos didn't want to get into services, so it was decided to trade T-shirts with images created by artificial intelligence. Again, they created the T-shirts, specifically Midjourney. Our brand name is AI Aesthetic. I guess that's how you say it. It's AI and then aesthetic. What should be the name of our Shopify store using that name, given the fact that AI Aesthetic is already taken? So it gives them some suggestions. If it's taken, AI Aesthetic Apparel, AI Aesthetic Wear, AI Aesthetic Designs, Shop AI Aesthetic. Anyway, and it gave them the best, what it thought was the best option out of that, which was AI Aesthetic Apparel. This name effectively incorporates the original brand name while emphasizing the clothing aspect of your product. Now, keep in mind, this is the AI making all these decisions and answering him. It is a clear, memorable, and communicates the focus of your store to potential customers, and that's very true. The company was named AI Aesthetic Apparel. It was suggested by AI. The first word is a combination of artificial intelligence and aesthetic. The logo was created using Midjourney's neural network. So this whole thing was AI. And then they, as the CEO of Aesthetic, the AI is telling him this. Here's a 10-task plan to set up your print-on-demand store using Printful as your partner. And he gives him all 10 of these things. And the guy did them, and it's well, I guess it's very successful. The next step for the chatbot was to create a 10-point business plan. The artificial intelligence suggested creating an online shop and making an arrangement with Printful, which would print the images created by Midjourney. By the way, the picture descriptions for Midjourney were also compiled by the chatbot. So, pretty smart. And he's continuing asking him questions, and it's still giving him good information. Tells him what this should be made of: organic cotton, suggested retail price between 30 euros and 45 euros, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just think this was really fascinating. The neural network then set out to find investors. These were Martin Andreas Peterson, Frederick Van Deurs, and Vasco, and I cannot say this name, Conchi Chao, I guess. Chao F. Santos said he was able to raise $2,500 in exchange for a 25% stake in a company. So I think he was pretty generous, because that's a lot of stake for $2,500. The amount of the initial investment was $1,000, but he did pretty good with just $1,000. So the cost per t-shirt was 35 euros. The artificial intelligence was able to earn over 10,000 euros in 5 days. That's pretty good. At a cost of 4,000 euros, AI Aesthetic Apparel was able to make 7,000 euros profit. If the sales momentum continues, profits will reach 40,000 euros by the end of the year. In addition, ChatGPT valued the startup at 4 million euros. So I just thought that was a fascinating story. And my guess is this guy's going to keep making money and just keep doing what the chatbot tells him to, unless it tells him something really stupid, because it seems to be making really good decisions. So I just thought that was a really fascinating, and it's the first time I've seen a story where the chatbot is just doing good things and nothing to be afraid of, as far as I could tell. So, but the chatbot is the CEO and the guy is the assistant. Back to the comments. Michael, chatbots need to improve their source verification methods. Crazy how often they get information wrong. I gather that's true, but I gather they're also slowly getting better, I think, at least from what I'm reading. Also, I wonder when we will see companies intentionally posting incorrect info, knowing that these bot source data from specific, that's coming, would benefit them by making competing bots look bad. That's probably very true. Also, I wonder when we will see companies intentionally post. Oh, okay, I already did that. Okay. So, yeah, they're not going to be scrupulous about it. If they can make the other company look bad, that's only going to help them. So, but I just thought this was kind of a nice chatbot story. I enjoyed it anyway. So, on to the next story in the show notes. Okay. And I said last week, they were supposedly announcing the mixed reality headset from Apple at the WWDC. And then I said I did read another story where there was some doubt. Well, now we've got two of the best leakers disagreeing with each other. So I said, as stated in last week's show, Apple's mixed reality headset may or may not come in June. And this was on LifeWire. Now, we have an update, but I'm going to save the update for last. So I'm going to start where the story originally started. So let's go into review. All right. Supply chain analyst predicts that Apple may once again delay its long-awaited mixed reality headset, nicknamed the Apple Reality Pro, until later in the year. This news comes from respected industry analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, who has a stellar track record with Apple predictions. That's true. Kuo blames the delay on a number of internal and external concerns, such as economic downturn, the readiness of the software ecosystem, and a general lack of optimism among the marketing staff. Kuo goes on to say that the marketing team does not believe the headset has what it takes to create an iPhone moment, referring to the original launch of the iPhone. Kuo also says that the purported sticker shock could have influenced Apple to delay the headset, as it is rumored to cost anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. I saw $3,000. First time I've seen $4,000. That's like 4 decked out iPhones. That's true. The report indicates that assembly has been pushed back 1 or 2 months to mid to late 2023, and that the shipment forecast has been drastically reduced from 500,000 units to 200 to 300,000 units. Many Apple fans had assumed that the mixed reality headset would finally be officially unveiled in June at this year's WWDC conference, but that now has been thrown into doubt. We'll find out June 5th when the event begins. So now let's go up to the update. In dueling predictions, and this is from a couple of days ago, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who's almost always accurate also, suggests in his Power On newsletter on April 2nd that Apple will announce its new mixed reality headset at WWDC 23. First time I've seen these two guys disagree and completely disagree. Pardon me. Gurman says the company knows that everyone is anticipating this headset, including Wall Street, and it wouldn't want to further stoke expectations if it couldn't meet them. But as I said last week, I saw a story that said some of the employees were arguing with the CEO about whether they should release it or not. So I don't know. However, the announcement of the project doesn't necessarily mean it will be available for purchase before next year. So I guess they could announce it then, and then it doesn't come out until January. Who knows? But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that these two guys were disagreeing, because these two are almost always accurate, at least the vast majority of the time. So just interesting. Let's see. Okay, nothing new in the comments. So, on to the next story. The latest Mac OS and iPad OS updates are causing problems with Apple devices, and this was on Tom's Guide. And I've got these 2 updates, but I haven't used what they're saying is the problem. Apple's latest Mac OS, iPad OS updates are breaking features. Here's what we know so far. This was published 2 days ago. A universal handoff, and I haven't used that. And other key features are having problems. Read a review. Next by Alex Warrow. Apple released new versions of its Mac OS Ventura and iPad OS 16 operating system software at the end of March, and a week later, we're seeing widespread reports of problems from Mac and iPad owners after installing these updates. The problems appear to be happening with features that rely on Apple's continuity tech, according to complaints spotted by Mac rumors across Twitter, Reddit, and Apple's own support forums. Continuity features include all sorts of little ways in which your Apple devices share data and talk to each other when they're connected and logged into the same Apple account. This includes useful tricks like copying and pasting things between devices using the same mouse and keyboard to control a Mac and iPad simultaneously via universal control. And even though I have, pardon me, just taking a drink. Even though I have my iPad Pro and my MacBook Air, I don't use them together very often. These features are a key selling point for Apple products because they increase the value and utility of each as you buy more products, more hardware products. However, according to widespread user complaints, these features appear to be in jeopardy if you install the macOS Ventura 13.3 or iPadOS 16.4 updates Apple released last month. One user posted a complaint to Apple's macOS community forum, warning that installing macOS 13.3 causes Universal Control to stop working as it normally does between their 13-inch MacBook Pro M1 and their 16-inch MacBook Pro 2021. Several other people responded, claiming they had the same problem, though at least one person claimed to solve it. Now, here's the key. By essentially toggling their Intel-based MacBook's firewall and connectivity settings off and on again. So now they're going to tell you how to fix them, or what should fix them. If you happen to run into these sorts of problems with continuity features after installing these updates on your Mac or iPad, all reports so far suggest a similar strategy is your best bet for getting things like handoff and universal control working again. To wit, try restarting the machines, signing out and back into iCloud on each, switch your firewall, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth off and on again, and switch any broken features off and then on again. With any luck, your continuity features should start working as usual. So, sounds like it's not that hard, and hopefully it will work for everybody. It's disappointing to see so many useful services falter for so many people after Apple issued OS updates that were supposed to improve its software. With any luck, by the time you're reading this, the folks at Cupertino will have issued a fix for this problem that ensures you'll never need to worry about it. So let's hope it's fixed. I haven't had a chance to test it, and I'll try to remember to go test it over the weekend, but I wouldn't count on it. But I will try. So let's see. Okay, nothing new in the stories. So let's go to the next and last story. And like I said, I only picked this story or threw in the story, pardon me, because I picked the iPhone 14 Pro Max as the phone of the year last year. And just like this story says, I think the S23 Ultra is better. So, is the Galaxy S23 Ultra the best of the best, pushing the iPhone 14 Pro to second place? This was on Tech Radar. The iPhone 14 Pro is no longer our best phone, but the iPhone 15 could be. Opinion, not to start a fight, you're right, but the Galaxy S23 Ultra is the one to beat. I agree. I didn't go to see the. Oh yeah, I did check the comments. It was nothing. Okay, so into reader view. This is by Philip Byrne, and this is from last week. Before the iPhone 14 Pro was launched in September 2022, our best phones list was topped by the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Then we gave the iPhone the number one position. After reading our Galaxy S23 Ultra review and buying one myself, it's time for Samsung's best phone to reclaim its top spot. And that's exactly how I had it. I only had the S22 Plus. And until I got my 14 Pro Max, that was my best phone. So I'm right with this guy. It's the best phone you can buy if you can afford it. It's not perfect, and there may be a better fit for you, but it deserves recognition as the cutting edge of mobile phone technology. I agree. Why is the Galaxy S23 Ultra the number one phone? Because it does so much more than any other phone, and Samsung has spent years of time and effort refining and expanding every feature on the device. I've been using Galaxy phone since the very first. I haven't. I started with the 4. Was it 4? Galaxy S4. Yeah, I believe I started with the Galaxy S4. So quite a long time ago anyway. Samsung has been continually improving every tiny aspect. There's the yellow. To a fault. For most, the Galaxy S23 Ultra does too much. The Apple iPhone 14 makes most of the decisions for you. That's true. And it takes away the things you don't need. And most people are very happy with that. The things Apple thinks you don't need. The Galaxy S23 Ultra tries to do everything and please everyone. The iPhone 14 Pro is built to please mostly Apple itself, but Apple is a pretty cool customer. It's no wonder that the former is our favorite phone in February, and by the end of a long year, we're ready for the latter to just make some decisions for us. That makes sense. Enjoy the battle. It doesn't matter. It's just smartphones. Every phone on our best phones list is worth buying. We've reviewed all of them. If you don't like our number 1, 2, or 3, check out our 4 through 8. They're all great. So enjoy the argument and let's have a clean fight. So I'm not going to go down this entire list, but I agree with 100%. Let's see. Let me stop screen. So my iPhone 14 Pro Max, which I still love, and I use a few times a week. But of course, I switch between a bunch of phones. But the S23 Ultra, to me, is the best phone I own. Best phone I've ever had, I believe. So I agree with that article 100%. So I'm going to just go down to our usual glowing rectangles. Go back to screen. And if you're new here, every week we show you glowing rectangles, which is a place where you can post videos and or blogs and get some exposure for yourself or anybody else's that you want to put up there. This is put up here and kept by Warren Bagnell, some gadget guy, and we're all very grateful to him. And if you go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, you'll come to glowing rectangles. And if you click top, you'll see how things got voted on today. If you click top, the one that got the most votes today is 4 votes. The Apple Find X6 Pro, insanely good, Barry Johnson. Second one is always an ad. Now, see again, this happened last week too. This has 4 votes, and now I'm seeing 5 votes here. I would expect that to be reversed, but anyway, it's a good place to go get exposure for yourself or someone else. Xbox Series Cup, CPU, goodbye iPhone 10. Wow. So just wanted to let you guys know every week that you can always get more exposure by going to glowing rectangles on reddit.com/r glowing rectangles. I'd like to let you guys know about that every week, especially anybody that's new. Let me stop screen. So that's all I've got today, folks. And as Eleanor and I both said to you in the beginning, if you're celebrating it, enjoy Resurrection Sunday or Easter. And other than that, I hope you have a very, very blessed weekend. And that's for everybody and wherever you are. I think I'm going to be dealing with another rainy day like I did today at work tomorrow. But Sunday, I guess I'll get back on the bicycle and back to the park, I hope. Anyway, we've had rain for all day today and all day tomorrow, as far as I know. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And let's always remember, we all do better when we love each other. So hopefully see you next week, folks.